Oh, did he want that on? You got it on?
It's 6:30.
This is for Tom. Susie?
Anthony's coming up.
Okay.
Back out a little bit.
Am I on? Oh, I'm on now. Welcome, everybody. I'm Christopher Liberati. Many of you know me. Hopefully, all of you know me. And Anthony is coming up. So Anthony and I are going to, do you want me to stand in the, there we go. Probably need to stand right here. So Anthony and I are going to share our experience from our trip to South Korea. And I would like to, as you, many of you know me by now, I always like to start with prayer. So shall we pray? Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the journey that deeply touched our hearts, and we feel like we not only took the congregation with us over there, but we brought a part of Korea back with us. And so, Lord, we just pray for the spirit of recollection and the ability to share the history and the memories of the experience as well. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. So, our trip was June and July. I already forgot the exact dates, but I don't necessarily think that's important. We went in the footsteps of the Scrantons. You'll be hearing a lot about William and Mary Scranton. They were the Methodist missionaries that were sent over there. This year celebrates 141 years since they first were commissioned to go over there. There were 39 delegates from both East and West Ohio, laity and clergy, and Anthony was the youngest, and I'm not going to tell you who the oldest was. So, like I said, we're celebrating 140 years of Methodist missions. This year marks the 141st anniversary of Mary and William Scranton's arrival in Korea in 1885. Bishop Jung invited 39 lay and clergy delegates from June 21st to July 2nd. I did have the dates in there. How about that? Our purpose in his words were simply this: to celebrate witnessing and to build peace and relationships. So we traveled as the guests of Bishop Song Bak Kim, who is the senior pastor at Kwang Lim Methodist Church, and we were also sponsored or hosted by the Seoul Korean Annual Conference. Where it began? It all began, believe it or not, in Cleveland in 1885. William Scranton was a doctor in Cleveland, and he felt called to serve as a missionary to Korea. Now, this was a little bit of a challenge because he wasn't a pastor, and they decided that they were going to go ahead and ordain him as a missionary to South Korea, even though he didn't have any formal theological training. His mother, Mary, felt the same call and journeyed with William, and they were commissioned by the Methodist congregation in Cleveland, and they reached South Korea in 1885. That makes the Ohio Conference of the Methodist Church, the founding conference of the Korean Methodist Church. And that's pretty huge, yeah. This was a postcard of the First Methodist Episcopal Church in Cleveland, Ohio. This was the sending church for Dr. William and Mary. They sent him to Korea, like I said, in 1885. This particular postcard was a small keepsake that they originally took over to South Korea last year. This year, what we did was we presented to the Seoul Conference an actual picture, a framed picture like this of that church, and we presented it to the Seoul Conference of the Korean Methodist Church. There were 39 of us, and this picture was taken at Sin Sam Korean Methodist Church. This is the bishop's home church, and this particular gentleman right there in the upper left-hand corner, he was the pastor there, and he gave a little message, and it was kind of cute, but kind of offensive in the same sense, because he tried to bring humor into his message as he was referring to a BMW. And he said, he asked us if we knew what a BMW was. And everybody said, yes, of course. And he goes, you know what a big mouth woman is? You guys laughed way more than we did, I'm just saying. But the Bishop Jung was, helped coach him along, and it was really neat because every time we went anywhere, it felt like they were rolling out the red carpet. They always greeted us with amazing hospitality and gifts. The last line, I'm just going to repeat it. Everywhere we went, we were welcomed not as strangers, but as family. And that really touched my heart. It was amazing. This was our flight path. We flew over Alaska. This was an hour and a half into our flight. So the total travel time from Detroit, Michigan to Incheon, South Korea was 14 and a half hours going there and 12 hours coming back. So I think the thing that confused me the most is there was a window seat up in front of us that had the blind cracked just a little bit. 14 hours of flying, and the sun, we never lost sight of the sun. It was amazing. It just truly amazing. So, not a flight I would like to do every month, but so when we got to the airport, we were greeted by our bus driver, and we were loaded on a bus. We went and checked into Hotel Koreana, and that is in downtown Seoul. And once we got our bags into our rooms and checked in, we immediately went up to the second floor for our first taste of Korean food. This was the dinner that was served to us the very first night. And like, that picture doesn't do it justice, because they set that down in front of us, and I'm like, well, there goes my good standing with the Clean Plate Club. Oh my. So what we have here is, on the bottom right is the Korean barbecue. Above that is rice noodles. This was a tofu soup, bean sprouts, kimchi, a different style of, this is like a kimchi bean sprout. These were greens. These were black beans. And can anybody guess what those were? What? Potatoes? No? Quail eggs. I actually, yes, they were eggs. And so the bishop came over and asked me, so how was the meal? And I says, oh, it's great. The meal was fabulous. I said, by the way, Bishop, are those quail eggs? And he looked at me and he says, yes. And then he goes, well, they're probably pigeon eggs. So either way, we tried them. We tried everything that was ever put in front of us. So the next morning when we woke up, Anthony and I took a walk, and we saw this. This was a set of steps and this huge tiger, and it kind of sets the tone for the day. I translated that, and the top set reads, the moment we wake up, the bottom set reads, nothing can stop us. And that is the mindset or the ethos of the people. Right, those steps were right here, heading this way. The hotel was down a couple blocks this way behind us. Right here, this building on the right was the U.S. Embassy. So we were really close to the U.S. Embassy, and I felt comfortable about that in case, I got in trouble or Anthony got in trouble. But one of the things that the bishop assured us from day one, he said, you are safe here. You have nothing to worry about. You can go out by yourself. You've got absolutely nothing to worry about. It's a very safe city. And we felt that the entire time we were there. There's never anybody bumping into you unless they were on their phone. But you just really felt safe. And the other thing that we found very interesting was the fact that it was so clean. It's the largest city I've ever been in, and also the cleanest city I've ever been in. The population of Seoul is around 25 million people. Geographically, South Korea takes up about the same footprint as Ohio. Ohio roughly has 11 to 12 million people. Imagine concentrating twice that amount in one city. And yet it was clean, it was quiet, and it was safe. All the buses run on CNG, compressed natural gas, and it was a pleasant, very pleasant thing. Anything you want to add?
The unfortunate part about being a clean city is that they do not have trash cans around, like nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere, no corner, no anywhere. And I mean, it was like, part of it was right that, if it's a clean city, we should be having, no trash on the ground and having lesser trash cans. So you have to go into an actual market and dispose your trash. I found that very interesting.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. The other fascinating part about the city is when we got there, we noticed that, first off, getting up at 3 or 5 in the morning, what's the first thing you need? Coffee, right? What we noticed is that about every fifth store is a coffee shop. And at first we were like, oh, they must really love their coffee here. But think about that. If you have 25 million coffee drinkers, you need a coffee shop every fifth store, right? Yeah, so we really enjoyed our time there for sure. This is a former emperor, and in the back is the palace, and I believe we have some pictures of that palace later in the slideshow. What's that? That is about 6 in the morning. Yeah, that was our first day there. So that was before the rush. Now, what we noticed is everybody's. I don't have my phone. It's on the thing. So everybody walks around with their phone like this, right? And during rush hour, there's probably 6 lanes of traffic. Vehicle traffic, but there's 50 or 60 people wide on the sidewalks. You see how big the sidewalks are, right? And you don't stand there in the sidewalk, right? Because you'll get trampled. But you either walk with the traffic or you move off to the side. And a lot of people had their phones like this, and Anthony actually got a little rather offended by that, and he was like, "Dad, see, they spend more time on their phones here than I do." Ha ha ha. Well, that got me curious as to what are they looking at? So with me being 6'1", it was very easy for me to creep up on somebody and look over their shoulder, right? And what's interesting was there were some people that were FaceTiming someone else, but a lot of them, the majority of them, were using some type of navigation app to get where they were going. So I'm just saying, with a city that dense in population, you can't remember where every storefront is or place of business. So that's what they were doing. They were using their phones to navigate the city. Now, knowing that real estate's a premium, right? There they build up lots and lots of skyscrapers. And it's not uncommon for a family to live in a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom apartment. Now, why is that fact so important, do you think? If that's the only place you have to live, you don't become a hoarder, right? We have, here in America, we have a lot of stuff. We do. And I wonder if anybody knows how many storage places we have here in Mount Vernon, right? Because we have so much stuff. Well, they don't live that way. They live basically just with what they need. And so, you know, they don't have a shoe fetish like I do. They don't have 20 pairs of shoes. They have maybe 2. Right? And so they live simple, and they live clean. All right. Our first stop was to the memorial to Yang Wajin Foreign Missionary Cemetery in Seoul. And the bishop said, "This is where we're going first, and this is why we're going. We're going to pay homage or to honor the dead, those who have gone before us, the saints who have gone before us." And so it was, I thought, well, that's a really unique way to start the pilgrimage out. And he went on to say, and here's why it's so important that we do this. We come and we pay our respects in hopes of receiving a blessing for our journey. And so we went, this is the memorial stone for the Scrantons, William on the left and Mary on the right. This is son and mother, in case you were wondering. So the one PowerPoint line I put there is standing at their graves, 141 years of shared faith suddenly felt very near. It was Bishop Jung called the whole pilgrimage a spiritual awakening. Here he is giving us the history of William and Mary Scranton, and he did that several times over the course of the trip. And then we prayed. We prayed for the cemetery and the blessing to be received. We also thank God for the courage of William and Mary Scranton answering the call to God that led a nation to accept Christ. This is the building outside of the cemetery, and this is one of the two stones. So there's currently 145 missionaries and their families buried in this cemetery. And the hall that's connected to the cemetery is called a place of remembrance. It's a memorial site of admirable faith and of the missionaries. And as we went in there, we all had to come into this one room like many museums do, and you sit down and they start a pretty short video. And it was really just a matter-of-fact type of video that shared the history. And they started out with the losses that a lot of the missionaries had experienced by taking the chance of going over to South Korea. Some lost spouses, some lost children, some lost material things. Everybody gave up something in order to answer God's call and go to South Korea. One of the next things that we did was we went and we worshiped at Quang Lim Methodist Church. That's the big church in South Korea. They worship 35,000 a week, give or take. They have 6 services on Sunday and several during the week. This is the Sunday morning worship that we eventually got to. You'll notice the choir. I think Mary Keppel would really appreciate this choir. There was 120 members in the choir singing, and they were accompanied by an orchestra. So there's 2 tiers. We were on the first level, and then they have a pretty intense balcony. One of the things that I wanted to point it out, this right here. We were sitting like here, and right there was a delegation from the World Methodist Church. Matter of fact, this lady right here came up to Anthony and introduced herself because she wanted to know why a young person was on the trip, and she wanted to connect with him. Behind them was a delegation from Brazil, from the Brazilian Methodist Church. There was also, within this particular congregation, there were some, or within that delegation, I should say, there were some delegates from Italy and Rome as well. Well, Italy, you know what I'm saying. Bishop Jung offered the benediction on that Sunday morning. This was that same church at 4:45 in the morning. We went 2 days in a row. We had to get up at 3 a.m. and leave at 3:45 or 3:30 to travel to the church and then be there for the 4:45 a.m. service. Now this is a 40-day prayer service that they do every year, and we were in the midst of that. We were in day 18, I believe, and we went back to back. And it truly was a powerful worship service because I found it so powerful to see so many people wanting to start their day with prayer, start their day yearning to connect with God. So, how many of you want to start a 4:45 a.m. service? I was told not to bring that back. So, and yes, we did find a coffee shop. So, here was the Quang Lim Methodist. It's the same sanctuary. That's the pipe organ that they used. I want to share with you what those banners say. I translated them. The banner on the left says, "It is a blessing to be close to God." And then the banner on the right reads, "Also a church that walks worthily with joy of all things will bear good fruit." So it's kind of setting the tone for their congregation. I just wanted to share with you one of the experiences that we had in this worship service. Everything was done in Korean. But we did have these little devices that we'd put in our ears, and it was the voice of a translator. And it was a live translator that was translating the Bishop Kim's message. This right here is Bishop Jung. This right here is Bishop King. And so it was kind of hard to really listen well because, you know, they have speakers like ours, but bigger and double. And so they really needed to get the projection out there. So we're trying to, I got my ears covered and I'm trying to listen to the voice of the interpreter over the Korean language that was spoken. I could do it, but it was very challenging. But what was powerful was when we sang a hymn. Now they sang the same hymns that we sing. They sing them in Korean, and we sang in English. And it touched my heart deeply because I sensed that that's what maybe a glimpse of heaven will be like, where the praises of God are sung in our native language. It also reminds me of the book of Acts, right, where they were speaking in their own tongues, yet everybody could hear them, right? So that was a pretty powerful moment. They also had a opera singer sing during the offering, so that was pretty cool. Bishop Jung offering the benediction at the end of the worship service. He offered it in his native language, which was kind of neat. We also visited some schools, chapels, and living fruit, as Bishop Jung calls it, of the Methodist movement. We prayed at church, at every church we prayed at, every museum we prayed at, every university and school that we prayed at. We visited Iwa, the largest women's university in Asia. That was born out of Mary Scranton's school that she started. We also visited the Methodist University Seminary of Korea. This is the picture of the chapel there. These institutions became the cradle of modern Korean education and medicine. The seeds planted in 1885 are still bearing fruit today. Here's a picture of Mary Scranton and the church that she felt called to start. Now, when she started this church, it didn't look like what you see there, right? It was a little small hut that she started the first church. This was Sangdong Methodist Church, and this was the church that was the birth of the movement. We walked into this church, and let me back up a little bit as to why she felt called to this particular church, part of the city. This particular part of the city was an area where workers, like coal miners and hard railroad workers, like the rough and tumbled folks, were working. The lower class, the poor of the poor, the hungry, and she felt called to plant a church right in the center of that darkness. And so when we walked in, I was, having been to some other churches there, I was a little underimpressed when I first walked in. But then they told us the story about the dark brick on the walls that surrounded us. That was there, built that way intentionally to remind those who worship there that the darkness to remind them of the darkness that once shrouded not only that part of South Korea, but of all of Korea. And then behind that, the cross is carved out of stone, and you'll see that there's a light illuminating from the back of it, and that represents the light that cannot be overshadowed by the darkness. And then the different stones represent the different parts of South Korea. And then you see like the circle represents the communion plate, and this kind of represents the cup. So this was the very first church that we visited. You can see the contrast between the dark brick walls and the rest of the structure. Let me get back to this. So this was the church, the very first church that we visited and actually took a tour of. And so Bishop has the presiding pastor get up there, and he's giving the whole history of the founding of this church, of William and Mary Scranton. And then the bishop gets up and he's talking, and they've gone over the architecture, and he's talking about how important this church is, and the fact that, you know, this was the birthplace of the Methodist movement. And I'm supposed to be the one to offer the prayer that day. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so, and there, not only were there 39 people from Ohio, but by the time I got up and turned around to pray, what I realized is every pastor that was serving that church and every layperson that was available that day had filled the pews. And I turn around and I'm like, first thing I said is, you have no idea how nervous I am, right? And I was praying prior to that, and God spoke to me, remove your shoes, for you are on holy ground. I've shared that in a sermon, right? And so I did. I said, right after I said how nervous I was, I said, but God gave me some assurance. Here's what he said. And I took off my shoes, and there was like a little bit of a gasp. And I said, remove your shoes, for you are standing on holy ground. And then I offered the prayer, and the bishop come up afterwards, and he thanked me, and he turns, he says, yes, indeed, we are on holy ground. And so I'm like, thank God. Whoever's next, I don't care. But anyway, and so I prayed this prayer that I had wrote like 2 weeks before, and I didn't realize the connection in the prayer during the writing of it, but there was great connection in the reading of it. And then this lady, she's a famous South Korean opera singer. Now, I don't know her name, I don't remember her name. But she had, before I had prayed, she had offered a song to us in Korean. And that was supposed to be one and done for her, right? And so after my prayer, she signaled our bishop, one more. And so she got up, she talked to the pianist, and she got up and she sang, I think it's the Lord's Prayer. You know which one I'm talking about? Our Father who art in heaven, right? She sang that, and she sang it in English. And here I'm in the pew, just like bawling. I mean, I lost it. It was just powerful. And so after we were supposed to go and have lunch, but before we did that, we went up to her and we presented one of our gift bags to her, and she thanked us, of course, and she says, I wasn't supposed to sing a second song, but your prayer moved me so much that I wanted to sing the Lord's Prayer for you and for all of us. And I thought, wow, that was pretty powerful. So they have a history wing. This was the original church bell, that they had up in the steeple. It was cast in Hillsboro, Ohio. So now I'm starting to get this deep connection between Ohio and Korean Methodism as we're traveling and experiencing all these things. So it's truly powerful. This was the Quang Lim Methodist Church. On the right is almost all of the church that you can see. And then I took a picture of this. This is Jesus as the shepherd. So I blew it up on the left side. Truly an amazing church. The next church, one of the other churches that we visited was Ihum Methodist Church. You had to walk up like 60 steps to get in there. But I can tell you, the people over in South Korea, man, do they walk. We were averaging approximately 12,000 steps a day in our travels. It was just amazing. This was inside the Methodist Seminary, inside a blessing hall, and the caption is, "We are an Easter people." Our next day took us to the DMZ, and we traveled to Gangwa Island. That's the border between it's along the border between North and South Korea. We prayed for reconciliation and lasting peace on the peninsula. Peace building was one of the three purposes of our pilgrimage, and hope, we were reminded, is itself an act of faith. So the upper picture, we're actually in the prayer house, built overlooking the DMZ. You really can't see it from where you're at, but probably 200 or 300 yards out that window begins the barbed wire fence. The bottom picture is the communion service that we had, which when we came out of the chapel there, the prayer chapel, we came out and we went up a couple flights of stairs to a patio area, and that's where we had a worship service. This is a picture of the DMZ checkpoint that we had to go through. Off to in the distance is more barbed wire. This was one of the roadblocks. We actually had to stop the bus, and everybody had to make sure they had their passports that day, because we knew that we were going to get boarded by a soldier, a South Korean soldier. And so they came in and checked, and they basically asked the driver if everybody had their passports, and he nodded yes, and they let us through. This was a picture of where we were having the worship service. Interestingly enough, the day that we visited the DMZ and prayed, there was a North Korean soldier that defected that day. It walked across the DMZ. This is a picture of us on the balcony after we had prayed. That's a little bit of a close-up. You can see the barbed wire fence there before the beach. Off in the distance is North Korea. And this is, they had a binocular that you could look through. And I stuck my phone up to try to take a picture of what we could see North Korea. And it's a little fuzzy, but we could make out that on their side was a barbed wire fence as well. Now, one of the things that happened during that service was Anthony wrote down on the bulletin, "This is a very dark place." And I wrote back, I said, "Yes, but the darkness cannot overcome the light." And we just shared communion, and I says, "Thus enters the light of Christ," right? And then when we got on the bus to find out that there had been a defector, I'm like, one. We prayed and one saw the light. But the thing that you have to realize when all of that went down, there were families that were divided, communities that were divided, and it's really sad because some of the families and communities to this day have not reconnected because they drew a line in the sand and said, we're no longer. Now this is just how my brain works. From the DMZ, we were heading to a mountainous region, and so I started Googling, well, if I lived here, what kind of animals would I hunt? Okay, not so funny, right? So anyway, I came across vampire deer. Vampire deer actually have fangs instead of antlers. True story. And so I was reading up on all the native wildlife, wondering if I'd see anything. They have bears, and then that led me to another article about some of the animals that are now extinct in South Korea. The Siberian tiger, for example. And then there's another bear, some type of bear that's extinct in South Korea. But they're not extinct altogether. They don't have them in South Korea and they don't have them in North Korea, but they have them in the DMZ because it's untouched by human hands. And so you have this, out of this horrible tragedy, you have this sparkle of light, this blessing in the midst of conflict. The fact that there's a wildlife refuge for some animals that otherwise we'd no longer get to see. We also visited Bishop Jung's home church. This is out in the middle of a farming community. So I told him, I said, well, we've got to get you to Mount Vernon, Gay Street, so you can fit right at home. But he was brought to this church. He was at 16. He met Christ through a local preacher, and he himself was a Buddhist. His family was Buddhist, and so he was walking along, and the preacher basically told him, God loves you. God has a plan for you. And Bishop said, what do you mean? Tell me more. And he ended up walking away from the family tradition and religion and accepting Christ. So, in his words, Methodism was strong in me, and that Methodism came to Korea from Ohio. Again, this is a picture of our delegation everywhere. The thing that they really wanted us to do was to go like this in every picture that we took. This represents a heart, right? Love. So that's why any of the pictures we have, you see us doing that. He's a fruit of our bishop is a fruit of the Ohio mission. He took a bold stance against his family long Buddhist Confucian tradition. I took 3 pictures and I spliced them together, but this was the crossroads, like just 50 yards down from the church. And I took this picture for a reason, because he was at this intersection basically when he was contemplating leaving Buddhism and accepting Christ. So I kind of thought he was at the crossroads of the spirituality in life. This would have been temple life for him before Christ. This was one of the Buddhist temples that we went to. It's set up in along a mountainous coast overlooking an ocean. Beautiful, very spiritual. One would go into the temple and kneel before the Buddhists, and they would do that as a way of trying to seek internal peace and enlightenment. You'll notice the candles up on top. Each one of those candles has a tag, kind of like a name tag, hanging from them. Though you can actually purchase those, but they represent your loved ones that have gone before you. Oh, right here, I wanted to point this out because this symbol right here, everybody see it? What's that remind you of? A swastika, yeah. Well, the swastika, the main difference is the swastika is reversed and set at a 45. The Nazis actually stole that and, twisted it, basically. But this originally is a symbol of peace and enlightenment, seeking to span the four corners of the earth. This symbol was around long before the Nazis took it and twisted it, and well, you know that's a different story. This was one of the temples that was in Seoul. You remember the very first picture I showed you of the walkway of the emperor and the temple off in the distance. This is one of the pictures on the outside, and then on the inside, again, a place that people would go to seek enlightenment. Normally you would have to pay to enter into that area, but to save a little money, you can go down to the store and rent traditional Korean costumes. And if you wear those into the temple, you aren't charged an admission fee. Just so happens we went there and rented these outfits, and it was like 85 degrees. It was really hot, and we walked in to the entrance, and there was a sign that said, no entry fee charged today. Oh, so we did a fast walk through the temple area because we wanted to get back and get out of those clothes. So for me, out of all the places I've ever been in my life, South Korea was the one place that I wasn't ready to leave. It has really touched my heart. In the cemetery, there was a missionary from Europe, and on his tombstone, he wanted this inscription, and I'm going to try to remember what it said exactly. I may fudge a little bit. But he said, I'd rather be buried in South Korea as opposed to Westminster Abbey. And to me, that was very telling on how a culture, how a nation, how a people can touch your heart and impact it. This was one of the places that we stayed. It was the Kwan Lim Seminar House. So Kwan Lim Church is the big church I showed you. That's in town. This retreat center is out in the country. They send pastors from all over the world to go there for retreats. And the first morning that I woke up, I went outside, and I had on my phone, I was playing Morning Has Broken. As the sun was coming up, the song is playing, and can I just say, I lost it. I started weeping. It was just such a powerful moment for me. And then about 45 minutes later, we had a devotion there. All of us, all 39 of us, we're out there, and guess what we sang? Morning is broken. Yeah. So I imagine the next time we sing it here in this congregation, you might see a tear or two. This was the one mountain that we visited. We had to take a 3-minute cable car up the mountain, and we weren't at the top. You'd get out of the cable car, and then you'd walk up steps, a flight of steps, and then rocks. It was about a quarter of a mile walk to where you were getting on top of the mountain. So the picture on the left, we were staying at. I can't remember the name of the hotel. It's really not important, but this was kind of a free day for us towards the end of the trip. The body of water is the Sea of Japan, and it was crystal clear. The beach was incredibly clean. I don't have pictures of it, but the next day we went out and walked along the beach. The water on the right is there, then the beach, then there's some trees, and then there was a street, and then the hotel. We walked along the street, and they had restaurant after restaurant after restaurant with all of these fish tanks on the front, in front of the restaurant, and they were full of like cod and flounder and king crab, and you'd go and pick what you wanted, and they would prepare it for you. But it was amazing to see, all that seafood. This was a glance at the top of the mountain. You can, if you notice on the right-hand side there, we were almost at the level of the clouds. It was amazing. As we were leaving, the day we left, we're on the bus ride, and Anthony leans over and he says this to me: "Dad, this is the best trip you've ever taken me on." With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony for your pictures, your memories. You want to talk about that?
So we got invited by Anne-Marie to go to a woodworking place to make chopsticks, which you'll see here. And when we went to go and make these chopsticks, they taught us how to
Shave them down.
Yeah, shave them down. And it was really interesting since I've actually never made a chopstick. I have been in the woodworking before at my old school in GRA, and never made something like this. And this particular one is my favorite because this chopstick, or wood, I should call it, is one of the more rare woods. And as you can see with the colors, this one is the most darkest one, and it's only because of light. This used to be like lighter wood, it used to be like a brown, but since the light color changed, or the wood color changed, this, and now it's a dark purple.
The longer you leave it in the sun, the darker the purple it'll become. So we had the inscription, hope, joy, love, and peace on one side, and those same words in Korean on the back side. 4 different woods. Normally you walk in and you select, they had like 20 different woods that you could pick, and you select which one, and you get 2 from that. And so me naturally being who I am, I said, well, what if we do 4 different woods, but just two sets? And the guy looked at me, and I said, I'll pay extra. It's okay. But what's interesting is the one wood that Anthony talks about, So we get these, they're basically like sticks, they're square blocks, right? And they're not very big, because the chopstick is not very big, right? Matter of fact, this is the actual length. We didn't take any off the length, so you get a block. It's a little bit bigger than this, and you put it in the hand shaver that they have, and you have to shave side 1 and side 2, and then you flip the box over and you shave side 3 and side 4 until there's no more shavings, and then you can sand the top and bottom, form them a little bit. But what's interesting about one of the woods that we get is, you know, he's got all these boxes with these blocks in it of the different kinds of woods. Majority of the woods, unlimited. But the one wood that Anthony was talking about, he only gets 200 blocks a year. 200. So only 100 sets of those chopsticks. So we did visit Chinatown. You want to talk about that?
So in Chinatown, we went down this street where they had a bunch of little shops and a bunch of food restaurants. We got into this one restaurant that we were invited to, that we had a reservation for, and I will tell you this much, there was a lot of food. We had
Eight courses, right? Well, you're getting there.
I'm talking.
Yeah, okay. While he talks, I'll just share another. Yeah.
So here, this was on the street on the way to the restaurant. As you can see that these masks were used by this guy. I don't know what.
Well, they're the masks that actors wear in the Peking opera. So, and if you got closer, you could read. You'd have to hold up your phone and translate the readings, because they're all in Korean or Chinese. But they're all hand-painted masks for the opera. Okay, you wanted to talk about food?
Yeah.
There you go.
So for the food, we had an 8-course meal. It was a lot to handle, I will say that, but it was all really, really good food. Now, with food, traditionally it is rude to not even try the food, because it is kind of like telling them that you just don't like their food, or it just doesn't look like the way
A sign of disrespect. So, you remember what that is? That was the spring roll, which many of us have had, right? Just a traditional cabbage and meat-filled spring roll or egg roll. Do you remember what that is? That is jellyfish salad. Did you try it?
That was my first time trying jellyfish for the first time. It was very slimy, and
But it was good. It was good, right?
It was good. Probably won't eat it again,
Yeah.
but it was pretty good.
Yeah. This was cod.
Sour.
This was deep fried cod. What they did was they would they strip the fillets off and batter them in traditional Chinese batter, and then deep fry those. And then with the skeleton, they would deep fry the skeleton, and that's how they prepared it. It was delightful. Even the meat on the head. This was a sweet and sour pork, and I don't think. What's that?
It was my favorite.
Yeah, there was a lot of food, but it was hard to push our way. It was hard to walk away from the table. and that seemed to be the case at every meal. It was just delicious food. This is a Korean restaurant that we visited after we had visited the Methodist seminary. The Methodist seminary paid for our lunch in this Korean. This would have been like a high-scale Korean restaurant. This was a 5-course lunch. It started with the dumplings here, and then this is kimchi. This is pickled something or another, and then we had soup here, and I was able to snag a picture of Anthony. He's very camera shy, by the way. And then this was the meal that we shared. One of the things that we went there to do was to learn about how they do ministry in the Methodist church there. And so this was a meal that was served to us from a class member who hosted the class for the day. Everybody know what a class is in the Methodist church, right? A small group that meets on a regular basis, and they do life together, and they hold each other accountable, and they study the Word. And so we went with one of the associate pastors. Kwang Lim Church has 35 associate pastors. 35. And their only purpose is to do visitation. Dale, you want to sign up for that? He was telling us that he does this 5 days a week, and he'll visit 4 to 6 homes a day. And it's not a one-on-one deal. He visits classes. So we went there, we had to take off our shoes, we were invited in, and he didn't waste any time. They use a system called 15, 15, 15, 15. 15 minutes of prayer, 15 minutes of hymn singing, 15 minutes of study, and 15 minutes of fellowship, and then he's out the door, right? And so they introduced us. We sat on the couch, our small group, and the pastor got right into it. He opened up in prayer. Now it was a condensed version of it because we were visiting, and we were going to have a meal together. But he prayed, and then they sung 2 hymns, and he did a lesson, and the lesson was provided by the senior pastor, and then we did the fellowship, and so you can see on the right screen that was the small dish is the Korean barbecue. The dish on the left was I believe like California roll, sushi. There was kimchi. Almost every meal has kimchi there. I think it's the #1 condiment in South Korea. And Anthony, I was able to take this picture because when he saw the California roll, he just let out a big smile because it's one of his favorite dishes. Anything you want to say about?
I will say when they gave us our portions that we got 6 California rolls each.
Oh no, the ones on the right that's the original serving there. It was like 9, 12. Yeah.
And then after I was finished with my dish, since I love California rolls, I asked politely if I could have a little bit more, and I was only asking for maybe like 2 or 3. They ended up giving me a full plate on the left here,
Yeah.
which was about like 40, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to eat all this.
One of the things that we did after the meal we exchange gifts. You want to share with the gift that was presented to us by the host? Go ahead.
So one of the ladies came up to me, or to everybody, to give us our gifts, and we got a little mirror, a makeup mirror. And the coolest part about this, I was doing some Google searching, and this
Design.
design is originally made by a shell from the sea. I don't remember what the actual shell was, but I think it was very interesting to know that something very tiny was made from the sea, which here, by the window when we were sitting there was an ocean, so it might have came from there. And then when it was wrapped, this is a traditional wrap. It's native there. Looks more of a bow, but in their case, it's very
Traditional.
traditional.
And so we knew the gift exchange was coming, and before heading over there, we had done a little research, and we, as a family, thanks to your help, with your help, that for those who supported us, we purchased these gift bags. They're embroidered silk gift bags, very connected to the Korean culture. And every time we would hand out a gift, like everybody on the 39 delegates had gifts to give out. But Anthony and I were the only ones that had these. And we noticed right away that just the gift bags were a big hit, because people zeroed in. Like when we presented the gift, Anthony presented the gift to the homeowner, like she just like, oh, and then showed her friends, right? And inside the gift, we put a variety of things. We put some reminders of Scripture on how we're created with a purpose, a keychain with a different prayer on it. We also had a bookmark with a Bible verse on it, and everybody got a little Jesus, right? And then we took over 60, I think we took about 70, 72 gifts with us, and we had 60 of them that had a thumb cross in them. And so that thumb cross was a very big hit. And I thought, out of all the things we gave, what was it about the thumb cross? The thumb cross was important because being minimalists, right? They could put it in their pocket and always have it with them. So we thought that was very neat. We have a display of gifts that we received from different churches. Anthony shared the makeup thing that we received from the host family. We received some dishes, Korean dishes, which, by the way, were made in China. Just saying. But they were gifted to us by the Kwanglim Methodist Church. We were also gifted this particular glass cross that was given to us by the Kwanglim Methodist Church. We were gifted, in this package, we were gifted soaps. We were also gifted, this is as you can see, it's etched in stone, but this is a unique stone that has a reservoir on top, and you put scented oil in it for aroma. So there's that. I've already shared with the congregation the preaching cross that they gave us, and that's been on the pulpit ever since I've been back. So the gift exchange, is very much a part of their culture. They really want to gift and make you feel welcomed, and so that was pretty powerful. And it was a treat for us to see how much these gift bags meant to the people. It was like we made a connection with them. Anthony, you want to talk about that real quick?
So as I was going through, I forget the marketplace that we went to, but we went through
In Sodom.
I went into a shop where one of our ladies went into to find a gift for her mother, and so then I thought of a good idea of trying to go in there and seeing if I could get one for my mom. Mom, can you come over here for a second? Sorry. So, interesting part is that at the bottom is there's an intricate design that is only in one corner. In one corner, that way it gives you a little bit of a guiding point of where to fold in from a bigger bag like a grocery bag to a smaller bag like a handheld. I also got a pink too, so that way she could be reminded that my favorite color is her favorite color now.
Okay. So Anthony was wanting to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I was just getting to that. So, as you can imagine, we tried to travel as light as we could, even though we had 72 gifts packed with us, and then we were receiving all of these gifts. And so Anthony wanted to do a lot of shopping at Insodom on the one day that we were there, and I said, absolutely not. You get one gift for you, one gift for me, one gift for mom. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to bring anything back, right? And so he got his hat, which the translation is South Korea, and I got this hat, which simply says Korea on it, and mom got the bag, and the rest of you get to fight over the gifts that were given to us. But overall, it was a really great experience. But I think the thing that I'll leave you with last is how we got around. We got around on one of the church buses from Kwan Lim Church, not your typical bus. It was a full-fledged tour bus, 40-seater. Very nice, very comfortable. Anthony and I, we sat in the back, and we didn't get into any trouble, but we did have a lot of good conversation. Anthony was able to connect with a couple people and build some relationships that will hopefully bear fruit in the future. Some of you may recognize some of these folks. Right here is Brenda Vaccaro. She works at the conference office. I can't remember her name right now. She works at West Ohio. This is Reverend Andy Call. He serves at Church of the Savior in Cleveland Heights. This is Tom Cowell. He serves at, I believe, Mentor. No. Where does he serve? He serves one of our churches in Northern Ohio. And then Angela Lewis, Beth Ortiz, Kelly Brown, not you, but our DS. So it was a great opportunity to be with friends and make new friends, both from Ohio and South Korea. And then one family across the ocean. We came home changed, grateful for our faith that circles the globe. The story that began in Cleveland now lives and 1.5 million Korean Methodists. Thank you for sending us and sharing this journey. Overall, 2 people answered the call to God that God placed on their hearts, and to date they've been credited directly or indirectly with bringing 12 to 14 million people to Christ. Anybody have a call? We can meet. We can meet. We'll send. We wanted to open up have some time for questions. Not that we have the answers. Yes, Linda. That's a great question. So William Scranton would have been in his late 20s, early 30s as a medical doctor. And so I would have put her at late 50s, early 60s. So the question was, how old was Mary Scranton when she got the call? Great question. Anybody else? Yes. Carol. Can you go give? Oh, do you know what they're? Everybody needs a little Jesus. It's just a way to spread the love. Yeah. We really were struggling. What do you get somebody that, number one, you don't know their culture, you don't know their language, you don't know, and so we took a chance on, just basic things that had reminders of Scripture, and those were actually a big hit. No, they're little rubber Jesuses, and we thought, is that corny? But when people pulled them out, it's like, and they smiled. So we thought we were onto something there. So. Somebody has a question back there?
No, Mary Scranton was 53 when she went to Korea. 53.
53. Oh, 53. Mary was 53. I was close. Yeah. I don't have my hearing aids on. I'm sorry. Any other questions? Yes? The coffee wasn't strong enough. No, I mean, like they love to drink it, but we were drinking, lattes, espressos, and it could have been just because we were going so much that almost everywhere we went, we were having coffee. Yeah. What's interesting about hydration over there, we tend, as Americans, drink a lot of water. How many of you have a water bottle, right? How many of you buy a water bottle, but you don't buy the little ones, you buy the big ones, and you drink the whole thing, right? They don't do that there. They have little cups like that for drinking water. And everywhere we went, we were like, yeah, leave the pitcher, right? But so that I found that interesting. The other thing that I found interesting was how clean it was, right? Even at a restaurant, we're used to using multiple napkins, or at least I am. Maybe I'm messy. But the napkins they give there for a normal dinner is a cocktail napkin. And it's not multiple plies, it's just folded in half, the size of a cocktail. Yes? What was the question? No, the water wasn't served warm. It was often chilled. Many of the churches, like in Fellowship Hall, what we found out was you don't drink from the tap. And they do have good water, but they don't have good pipes. So the churches and the restaurants, they would have these water stations, kind of like a big water cooler, and they'd have all these little cups there. Not disposable cups. They would be, everything would be either stainless steel or glass. They generate very little trash. Even their food scraps are put off to the side and then taken, and I'm assuming they don't recycle that. They give it to the farmers for the animals. So, good question. Any others?
To add on to the coffee, when we were at well, it wasn't a coffee shop, but it was a ice cream shop, but I assume it's for every place that was a restaurant. So when you're walking in there, they ask you if you want to dine in or take out. Now, the funniest part is that when we went in there, when we went to, I think it was Baskin Robbins, I ordered a matcha, he ordered something, I don't remember, and we went in there and we ordered takeout. And so usually, in America, we usually order takeout. Sometimes we just want to sit in the lobby just for a second before leaving. Now, in their culture, takeout, you have to take it out of the actual restaurant, otherwise they kick you out. I didn't realize that until they yelled at me.
Yeah. You must take out. You must take out. Yeah. Yeah. Becky? Yes, the question was when we went to the Sea of Japan, did we go in the water? I didn't actually go swimming because I was fatigued, but Andy, Call, and I, on the evening that we were there, we walked along the beach, and we did walk in the water. It was really cold, crystal clear, really cold, but you got used to it. There was a small group of people that did go swimming the next day. Good for them. So, yeah.
I went in the warm pool in downtown.
We did pay a little extra, 30,000 won, for him to go and swim in the infinity pool. Now, that was on the top floor, overlooking the ocean. So, yeah. Marianne. Good question. The question was in reference to all the steps we were taking and all the steps that we saw in the church. I will say this, the people there are extremely healthy. We did not see anybody as big as me. I'll just put it that way, right? Who loves to eat. A lot of walking. Everybody walks, right? And they eat a lot. Their serving sizes are huge, but it's all fresh, and it's mostly vegetables. There's some protein in it, but I was like really surprised at their portion size, but when you look at them, their metabolism is really burning that. And they're really fit people. Yes, Cynthia. What did the pigeon or quail eggs taste like?
I would say the inside of an actual egg, like a normal egg, just with a little bit more flavoring. It kind of, for me, honestly, it tasted like water, but water.
Yeah, and for me, it had a little bit of a earthy flavor to it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. I'd eat it again. So, yeah. The hotel that we stayed in Seoul, they had a breakfast buffet. Every kind of food that you could imagine. Very, very few items that were American. I tried a Japanese egg. it came in a cup, and it was the consistency of custard, and it had a baby shrimp on it. It was really good. The one thing that I will say about Korea that we found out, we eat way too much sugar here. Their desserts were phenomenal, but they were not sweet at all. I mean, it was just amazing. They don't use the sugar like we do. We went in Insudong, we were at a street vendor. He was making traditional Korean candies, and it's made with honey. So he'll take a ring of honey like this. I don't know if it's chilled or what, and I thought it was, he started to place it in what looked like powdered sugar, but it must have been like cornstarch or rice flour or something. And he would pull it, fold it over, pull it again, fold it over, pull it again, fold it over. By the time he finished, it was 32,000 strands in a size like that. Kind of, you ever had shredded wheat? That's what it looked like, right? And sometimes they fill it, or you can eat it by itself. What they did was they used, you ever had a nut horn, like the nut filling? They put that in there and folded it over, and we got to try it. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so sweet, but it wasn't at all. It just had a hint of sweetness, but it was really good. Any other questions? How long have we gone? Oh my goodness, 90 minutes. Kathy? I gotta move up, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Condiments. Were there things that we could add to the food? I don't recall. Oh yes, there was one.
I think it was
one.
the Korean burger place that I went to.
What's that?
The Korean burger place that I went to.
The Korean barbecue place. Yes. So the traditional Korean barbecue place. Funny story. We went there. Anthony remembered how to get to one particular place. So a group of us went there, 6 of us, and we go and we're trying to get in, and they said, we have no room. And so we're asking, well, is there another place? Oh yeah, 2 doors down, 1 door to the right. I mean, again, you have to feed 25 million people, right? And it's not about competition there, it's about efficiency there. And so we walked around the corner, and 6 of us are standing outside looking at the menu, and this grandmother comes out. She says, you come. And she pulled us into the restaurant and opened up a section back by the kitchen and sat us down and brought everything out. And she didn't speak English, we didn't speak Korean. We just pointed to stuff, and it was like we were family. She came, really catered to us. And it was one of those places where you cook your own meat in front of you. And the sauce the only condiment that we came across was this, like a chili sauce. Now it wasn't spicy, but you could add that to whatever you were making. And so I would say the food it's good all by itself. Everywhere we went, we ate with chopsticks. They did offer spoons. There were a few restaurants that if you needed a fork, but Anthony and I are pretty proficient with chopsticks, so we enjoyed that aspect of it. But no mayonnaise, no mustard, no ketchup. Nope. They have a lot of pickled items. So pickled radishes, cucumbers. There's a lot of flavor in the food already. So we never asked for anything like that. I don't even think we may have had soy sauce at the Chinese restaurant. But again, everything was so good, it never dawned on us that we needed a condiment. Little sidebar, you know what the #1 condiment in Israel is? Hummus. Yeah. We spent 5 weeks over there. That's another story though. All right, any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. Oh, yes, question from the balcony.
Can we put it to the next slide, please?
Next, oh yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot there was one more. Yep, this was our home visit at, and this lady in the middle, she was the host, and you can see the joy in their faces. That joy was contagious. Almost everywhere we went, there truly are a happy people. This was her apartment on the 14th floor. It was, I believe, a 1-bedroom apartment. So again, minimalist living, yet abundant joy. So they're holding up the different gifts that they had received. So, very good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for coming. And I probably could go on for another hour because there's so much that I've forgotten. But it truly was a blessing to go. Thank you for coming out tonight. Please come forward and look at the gifts that were given to the church.